We are going to start. Just a couple of admin notes. If you are a smoker, please do so outside. Please turn your phones onto silent or off. The ladies' bathrooms are out this door to the right and to the left before the front door. And the gents are to the right and immediately to the right in the passage. Lost my mind. I'd like to hand over to our president, Harold Robinson.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome.
Morning.
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 Morning, Harold.
To start with, I would like us to introduce ourselves. As Lynn eventually remembered, my name is Harold. And I go by the position of club president. And I've been a Toastmaster for many years. Enjoyed it over the years. I used to be in Durban, and I came up to Johannesburg and joined Bryanston Breakfast Club here for about 4 years. Would you like to start, Lynn? Introduction? We'll go around the table.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Lodi. I have been a member of this club for a year. I'm the VP of Education. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi there, my name is Renee and I'm a member of Toastmasters. I joined 2 months ago and I'll be presenting my icebreaker speech today.
Yes.
Good morning, I'm Kurt. I'm not a member of Toastmasters, but I'm here to support my lover Nate today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Sabrina without the S. I am visiting for the 5th time. I promise I will join. Thank you. And this is Agani, my daughter.
Welcome.
Jani, it's your chance.
My name is Charlotte. I am a member of Toastmasters since December, and I'm a visitor here today.
Welcome.
My name is Marion. I've just joined Toastmasters at another group, Johannesburg Entrepreneur Group, and I'm due to make my first speech on Wednesday. Thank you.
We might give you practice today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanya Langbine. I'm going to fulfill the role of timekeeper today and also do an evaluation on the general evaluator, who is Rick. Thank you. Oh, and I'm a member of this club, of course.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dino Lupini. I'm been a member at this club for the last, I want to say 3 years. I could be wrong, but we're all forgetful today, so please forgive me for that. And yeah, I've got a cool role today as an evaluator. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Dina.
Good morning. My name is Siamo Mokhadi and I'm visiting the club today.
Welcome.
Good morning everyone, my name is Naren Hasnani. I'm also visiting it first time here.
Welcome.
Good morning all, I'm Rick Robenheimer. I've been a Toastmaster since 2014. I'm currently a member at Marisware Toastmasters, who used to be UWP. I'm area director for H5, which is the Woodmead area, and I'll be the evaluation chair and general evaluator today.
Good morning, everyone. Apart from creating absolute havoc, my name is Judith Taylor. I'm also a member and VPE at Marisware, and I belong to Golden Diablo as well.
We also know about Judith that, not in the way she did today, but she often creates havoc.
everyone. My name is Ellie. I'm not a member yet, but I will join soon. The reason why I'm here is because the theme of today got my attention. It says, becoming a person of influence. So I would like to be that person one day. So that's why I'm here. I need to learn. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning everyone, I'm Mandy Murray, I'm a member of this club and today I'll be evaluating Charlotte's speech.
Morning everybody, my name is Neos Kosane and it's my first time here. Visiting for the first time.
Welcome.
Good morning everybody, my name is Imsalal. The reason I came to Toastmasters is to become confident and to learn leadership skills. Thank you.
Thanks, Hamza.
Good morning everyone, my name is Tambu. I'm a member of this club and VP for membership. I've been in this club for just over a year now and thoroughly enjoying it.
Thank you, Tom. So, we can welcome the guests and we can just support each other with them. Moving next onto the agenda, any apologies? No? So they stayed away without apologies?
Yeah. I suppose, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And program changes, Lynn?
Yes, so there were 3 speeches. Permit has had to cancel, so we have just the 2, Anae and Charlotte. And Dino will be evaluating Anae's speech and Mandy will be evaluating Charlotte's speech.
Thank you very much. That's it. Next on the agenda is the business session. I have 2 points on the business session. The first one is just talking about the membership and the committee. After the last round of renewals, we have got 14 members. Well, 13, I think we've got 14. 13 I know about. 14 maybe. For club strength, we need 20. So anybody who wants to join, you're very welcome. What we find, you'll see that there's more visitors and guests today than members, is when you join Bryanston Toastmasters, you can stop coming to meetings. So that's what it looks like actually happens. We also, the committee is dwindled from 7 people down to 4 people. So we're appealing to anyone who would like to learn some skills in running a club to join the committee. If we get no volunteers from anybody, expect an approach from one of us. Right. Today there's only 3 committee members here. Adrian is away somewhere in the east. And the reason why she's laughing is because it's in a funny place called Phuket. I keep saying it wrong. And it's just okay. So it's just the 3 of us who are keeping the club together at the moment. So we do need help. Because like you, we are also quite busy. So if you can see your way clear and to learn some skills, please contact Tamru, Lynn or myself. And then the second order point of business is our 100th meeting is the next meeting. We've already had acceptance from 14 visitors. That's people who were very involved with the club in the early stages and have been coming back from time to time. We call them VIPs. So Rick and Judith have already accepted, so they're 2 of the 14. So we will send out invites to all the members, and I'm going to ask you just this time to please let us know if you can definitely be there, because we're going to have a bit of a challenge with the numbers, and we'd just like to get them accurate so we can cater correctly. So I'll send the invite to all members, and you can invite to, RSVP to Lynn or to myself. Right. That's all I've got on the business session. Tambu, Lindsay, anything else I should mention? Okay. The rest of you, if you have anything to mention, you can do it on a point later on. That brings me to the end of the business session. I will see you later. In the meantime, I'm very happy to hand over to our Toastmaster for the day, Tambu. Please welcome Tambu to the front.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning.
I see we're a little light on this side, which means everybody sitting on this side probably came for the breakfast and is sitting as close as they can to it. So it's not to miss out. As am I, so no judgment. Today's theme, which we'll have seen and heard about already, is becoming a person of influence. It's the title of the book that was written by John Maxwell and Jim Dornan, both of them highly influential people, each in their own right. I'll be talking through some of the concepts that I personally took out of that book and that have helped me as well. It's not to say that I am good at them or perfect at them yet. It's a daily battle, a daily challenge, shall I say. Let me just start by saying this about influence. Everyone has influence. Everyone, including each one of you that's sitting here today. Whether you realize it or not, whether you choose to believe it or not, does not change the fact that you still have influence. To quote from the book, if your life in any way connects with other people, you are an influencer. You don't have to be well known, you don't have to be high profile to influence. I guess the only question is, what kind of influence are you having on your world and on the people around you? Are you influencing them for better? Sorry, my metal gavel keeps falling. Are you influencing them for better? Are you influencing them for worse? Or is there a neutral sort of influence there? Let's make this a little bit more real. I'm going to read out a list of 10 names to you. If you have heard this name before, chances are this person has influenced you in some way. I'd like you to tap, or rather bang, the palm of your hand on the table. If you haven't heard the name, then don't do it. Let's have a practice run. Jacob Zuma. Every hand should have banged the table. Let's try that again. Jacob Zuma. Okay. Now the real list starts. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Cyril Ramaphosa. Clive Winkentami. Adolf Hitler. Samantha Marshall. Brenda Camps. Idi Amin, Napoleon Hill, Harold Robinson, Donald Trump. Now you would agree that some of those people on that list did not necessarily influence the world in what we might agree to be a good way, but they influenced nonetheless. I deliberately compiled a list of names that has high-profile people and other people you might not have heard of that have still influenced my life in one way or another. Influence is a concept that is so often misunderstood and sometimes misused as well. But that's only because it tends to sit on this continuum where it has an extreme where it turns into control, and on the other extreme can be manipulation. And in the middle, somewhere, sits a healthy level of influence. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that each one of us here is most likely present today because they desire to be successful, or to impact the world, or to be seen and heard in one forum or another. Many of us here are actually here to learn to speak more effectively so we can communicate better. Why? So that we can have more influence on the people around us. Whether it's in our work environment, our home environment, whether it's something else that we're aspiring to in the future. I'll be sharing some nuggets with you today from this book entitled Becoming a Person of Influence that have helped me significantly, in the hopes that we can begin to walk this journey together. Otherwise, it will be a very lonely journey for me trying to be an influencer alone. So to kick off the rest of our meeting today, I'm going to call upon the role players who are going to assist us today to give us a brief introduction of our role this morning. I'll start with myself. My role as Toastmaster today is to coordinate and conduct today's meeting, acting as your hostess. Good luck with that. I would now like to call upon our Table Topics Master for the day. Table Topics Master, would you mind taking us through your role for this morning?
My role as Table Topics Master is to get members of the meeting to talk about something that they're unprepared for. And I'll just leave it at that for the moment, except to say that we will all be involved unless you decide to opt out.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I hereby opt out.
Not you.
May I ask our evaluation chair to take us through their role for this morning?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As evaluation chair and also general evaluator, I will be convening the meeting of the evaluators at the break. I will then chair the session of evaluations, and I will give an evaluation of the meeting at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, evaluation chair. Madam Timekeeper, may I ask you to take us through your role this morning?
The role that I'm fulfilling today is that of timekeeper. The responsibility I have is to assist those who are speaking to understand how they're doing in terms of the recommended time for the relevant speech that they're delivering. Today we have 5 to 7 minute speeches. So 5 is the minimum and 7 is the max. So on the minimum time, this light will be switched to green to indicate to the speaker that they've reached the minimum time. Halfway between the minimum and the maximum, in this case 6 minutes, will go to amber, and at 7 minutes it will go to red. At red, the speaker is really being prompted to wrap up and should do so within 30 seconds. Otherwise we should be tinging a bell or removing you from stage if anyone, our Sergeant at Arms, is strong enough to do that. And then during the meeting I will be giving feedback on how the different speakers managed during their speech in terms of the time allocation. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Timekeeper. Now we come to possibly the fanciest title for the morning, which is Madam Meeting Sergeant at Arms. Would you mind taking us through your role for this morning?
Thank you. To ensure a room setup, that you have some directional signage when you come in, that voting slips are out and programs are out and banners are up, although it's a team effort, certainly the committee. And then just to support the individual speakers that they have any tools they might need for their speech. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Meeting Sergeant at Arms. Have I missed any other role players? Then may I ask you to join me in giving our role players a hearty applause. Thank you for helping us understand your roles better, and thank you for putting your hand up for participating. It's because of people like you that we are the club that we are. So thank you for that. Just a reminder that in front of you, you do have a sheet of paper with the program outline. and you can follow it along with us throughout the day as we go. We now move into our prepared speaking session, where individuals have volunteered to prepare a speech and to present it to the club. Each speech falls within the Toastmasters program. Each speech has its own individual objectives. I will ask each designated evaluator to provide us with the objectives of each speech. Evaluators, have you each received the relevant speaking manuals or evaluation forms from the speakers? Thank you, Dino, for that excited Our first speaker today is someone who is new to the club and has been a wonderful addition. Ane Nevis. Ane will be speaking from the Pathways Level 1 manual. Her speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. Dino, you will be evaluating Ane's speech this morning. Please share with us the purpose of statement for Ane's speech.
Thanks, Sambu. So, I will be evaluating Ane's speech this morning. It is her very first speech within Toastmasters and in life, I think. So the purpose of this speech is for the member to introduce herself and just to learn the basic structure of preparing a public speech. So, good luck, Ane.
Thank you, Dino. I asked Ane who had the greatest influence in her life, and this was Ane's response. My granny has had the most influence in my life. She was a beautiful, majestic songbird. She was always positive and cheerful and wise and. I love my granny. I wish I had your granny's details so I could send this to her. Then I also asked Ane a little bit about herself. She sent me something that I actually didn't want to change up because I thought, well, if this doesn't sound like the granny you've just described, then I don't know what does. Ane says that I love the ocean, any ocean. It's my go-to place when I'm happy and when I'm sad. I love my 2 little huskies. They are 9 years old and have completely imprinted on me. Something about me is that I love gardening. I love making things beautiful and reaping the benefits of my labor. By the way, my doggies love gardening too. I would imagine that's more of taking out the plants. Gardening is a big deal in our household. Ane, I commend you for doing your icebreaker today. It takes a lot of courage, and I'd love to welcome you up to the front. Please help me welcome to the front Ane Nevis with her speech entitled The Best of Me. The Best of Me, Ane Nevis.
For 36 years of my life, I had been a typical A-type personality until the day I decided to take a sabbatical from work and from life. I realized I was not leading a life I was happy with and that I needed to make a change. That was 6 years ago. As I had extra time in between contemplating life's greatest philosophical questions, I joined a Ikram yoga studio and received a 10-day pass for 20 rand. Being an accountant, I loved the fact that it would only cost me 20 rand per class if I went for the full 10 days. And being competitive, there was no reason to not. I did, and I was hooked. The very next week I did a 30-day challenge, which then turned into a 371-day challenge. I simply couldn't stop at 365 days. And 6 days later, tired and injured, I realized that I had to let go of the ego. The ego knows no peace, has little self-love, has impossible expectations, and is always aiming for perfection. It is also nearly always wrong. Madam Toastmaster, hello Toastmasters, visitors and guests. My name is Anae, and I've joined Toastmasters in my journey of self-actualization. I'm a person who stutters, and I'm here to overcome all of my fears and be the best speaker I can be, and in doing so become the best of me. My yoga challenge grew into a passion, and not long after that I discovered Ashtanga yoga, which is a advanced classical Indian yoga. 2 years ago, being recently divorced and moved into my new home, I was looking forward to new beginnings. The question I was struggling with was how to let go of the past and embrace the uncertainty of what the future holds. My answer led me to a Ashtanga yoga retreat in Goa, India. I practiced with Petri Rasaman for a period of 2 weeks. He is a celebrity in the yoga world, as he was the last student that was ever taught by the founder, Sri Patabi Joyce. This was my first step in letting go of my fear. It was the first overseas trip which I'd ever done on my own to a Southeast Asia country, and I was terrified but excited. I felt free and exhilarated. And so I stepped into this magical paradise of yoga, meditation, vegan food, massages, beautiful beaches, and 50 other yogis from all over the world. Our mornings would start off with yoga at 6 a.m. followed by breakfast, which was a festival of food in a variety of colors. The rest of our mornings were spent going to the beach, getting henna tattoos, tanning, reading, napping, and swimming. I did an Ayurvedic reading, which, not surprisingly, said I was very stressed. India is a shopper's paradise of inexpensive and beautiful items. I returned with beautiful silk scarves, countless books, and a glorious silk dress which I'm keeping for a yet-to-be-determined special occasion. Late afternoons offered various workshops ranging from self-healing to making organic chocolates. On one occasion we enjoyed a spiritual experience by taking part in a ceremonial prayer at a temple close by. Evenings offered communal dinners, music, movies, or just chatting. A favorite of mine was to lie in a hammock, look at the stars and drift off far away. We mostly went to bed around 9, as all the yoga, beach and eating makes you really tired. This was my time out from life, my paradise, a haven which provided healing. It changed me and I was excited for the next part of my journey. Yoga has taught me that you can do those advanced postures when you just do it and don't think about it. The minute a thought of self-doubt creeps in, a muscle can involuntarily contract, which makes putting both legs behind your head a little bit tough. I've been able to draw a direct analogy between my speech and my yoga practice. And by applying the same principles, I'm slowly and surely discarding all those fears surrounding my speech to become the best speaker I can be. And so my journey with Toastmasters begins.
It's as if you knew what I was going to talk about next or what becoming an influential person is about. Because it is true, as your speech said, which was the most powerful part for me, is it is important to let go of your ego. For many, there's the misconception that to be an influential person, you need to embrace your ego. And yet it's quite the opposite. And I don't doubt that that's why you have the room eating out of your hands this morning. That said, your influence is not equal with all people. So the way I would influence Hamza will not be the same way I would influence Harold. For example, try going to Ane's house and ordering her 2 huskies around. Find out what's good for you. Then try ordering your wife around at home. Also find out what might be good for you. Come back and let us know how that works out for you. Or think of it this way, if you have more than one child, does each child respond to you in the same way? You may speak to them the same way. You may counsel them the same way. You may have a deep connection with each of them, but you will influence them in completely different ways. I know for sure that my daughter's teacher has more influence on my daughter than I ever will. The first step to understanding your own influence is to observe how people around you respond to you, the different ways and the different levels at which they respond to you. I am now going to exercise my temporary influence as Toastmaster, and call Charlotte up as our next speaker, and you will see she will respond by getting up and coming to the front. Not yet, Charlotte. Charlotte will be speaking today from a Pathways Manual, Presentation Mastery, is that right? Presentation Mastery Level 3, Speech 2. Charlotte's speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. Mandy, would you mind sharing the purpose statement for Charlotte's speech?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Charlotte's project is to connect with storytelling. The purpose of this project is for the member to practice using a story within a speech or giving a speech that is a story. Like Charlotte.
Thank you, Mandy. Please join me, before you join me in welcoming Charlotte, let me tell you a little bit about Charlotte. Charlotte is a personal profiler, an author, a transformation specialist. It actually feels like Charlotte should be standing up here telling you about becoming an influential person. But you're stuck with me for today. Charlotte names Winston Churchill and Richard Bryanston as the two people that have had the greatest influence in her life. Why is that? Because they never gave up, and they both of them walked their talk. Please join me now in welcoming Charlotte to the front with her speech entitled, Your Hidden Genius Superpower. Your Hidden Genius Superpower, Charlotte.
Your hidden genius superpower. Your hidden genius superpower. As Anne so beautifully, eloquently described to us her journey towards self-actualization, every single one of you here has a hidden genius superpower. How many of you are prepared to face the fear that you feel in your gut? How many of you are prepared to listen to the voice in your heart? Your hidden genius superpower lives in all of you. Most of us, science has proven, stay in our head. In our head is where all our labels are, our experiences, our perceptions, our judgments, our stories and our dreams. This is only 10 to 20% of what goes on. The other part of you, from here down, is where your hidden genius has its other 80% of its voice. The gut and the heart, enteric brain and your heart brain. There are neurons here, here and here. And most of the conversation comes up from your body. So let me tell you about Poe the panda. Poe the panda. Pandas are notoriously big and bulky and a little bit lazy, and they love popping berries and nuts, and they slow. But Poe the panda had a dream. He felt it in every ounce of his being. He wanted to be a kung fu legend. He was going to save the Valley of Peace. Poe's dad was a duck. And he specialized in the Valley of Peace, serving noodle soup with a secret recipe. And Poe believed that was his purpose to a large extent. But he never stopped believing in his dream. That he felt in every ounce of his huge, big, cuddly body. And one day, the 5 Kung Fu legends came to town. They were opening the doors on the call of knowledge. And the master was going to appoint a new legend. The new Kung Fu legend. The master instructed Sifu, get the 5 legends there. The whole town ran up the hill. And of course Poe, climbing up the stairs, out of breath and lazy. But he was going to get there because his dream was starting to happen. And he got to the gates and they were closed. It was too late. He was too slow coming up the hill. But as nature has it, when you have a dream, nothing gets in your way. And the clumsy Po, the panda, somehow, you'll have to watch the DVD by the way, got into land right in the center of the arena where the 5 legends were. Viper, monkey, mantis, tigress, and crane. The 5 kung fu legends. And Po catapulted into, right in the center, in between them. And the master, with his magical staff, looked at the training master, Sifu, little Sifu, and said, Sifu. And he pointed and he said, that is our next legend. That panda, you are going to make our next legend. Sifu rolled his eyeballs. I mean, he's trained 5 legends. He rolled his eyeballs and he thought, following the path of the master, we will not argue. We will step into the space and we will train. The 5 legends, one of them was hoping to become the next legend. They were hoping the master would say it was them. But it was Po the panda, who had never done one thing kung fu except in his mind. And in his body, he just dreamed about it. Sifu trained him against all odds, absolutely all odds. And Po learnt, in the space of his training, the power of his focus, of what was in his mind could happen as long as he took the action. Sifu never gave up on him. The master eventually passed and reminded Sifu to never give up on him. The 5 legends never gave up on Po the panda. They all supported each other. They all trusted the possibility of what could happen. Po had a hard act to live up to. But he became the Kung Fu legend that saved the Valley of Peace. And he did. And they all worked together because one person expressed the reality that they believed in Po, the most unlikely candidate. So I ask each of you here today, how many of you stay in your comfort zone, that 10 or 20% in your head, and how many of you are willing to step into that space and to take the action beyond Po the panda and become your own genius? Sifu in Kung Fu Panda says humans live by pleasure, we learn by pleasure or by pain. What do you choose, the comfort zone or the discomfort? Because that is where your dreams lie. This is where it happens. It doesn't happen only in your mind. You have to marry them both. And you can become your own hidden genius superpower. It sits inside of you. If you have a small thought about it, make it happen. Because I believe in every single person sitting here, that every single one of you have still got something to say, to offer the world, and to step into your own Kung Fu Panda genius. To all of you legends, thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Charlotte. I feel like a pudgy little short version of Po running up endless steps to get to my dream. Thank you for that. What strikes me most about Po, and I love that movie, it's one of my favorite movies. What struck me most about him is he managed get what he dreamt about, and more. I don't think he even imagined the depth of it. Yet he did it with such authenticity. He didn't change who he was. He didn't go on a diet to become as slim as Snake or praying mantis. He didn't change his countenance and try and take on a more serious posture. I mean, he still jokes around and he's still very much himself, which empowers him even more to meet his dream where he's needed, in his very own way, in a more powerful way, because he's not trying to be somebody else. That makes him that much more of a person, a panda of influence. There are 4 levels of influence which I do see Paul going through. The first one is modeling. Modeling allows people to see that you are a person worth listening to, that you're positive, you're trustworthy, you're admirable. The second level from modeling, from people just seeing you from afar, is being able to motivate people, being able to build people up and increasing their confidence in themselves and their self-belief. Many of us think that being influential is having people have confidence in us. It's about allowing that confidence to sit with the other person so they believe in themselves. And I think Sifu did that well. The third level is mentorship. And this is the stage where you pour into the life of that person, using your experience and using what you can see of them that they can't see of themselves to build them even further. And lastly, which I think is the most important level of becoming a person of influence, is equipping them to influence other people and starting their 4-point cycle by modeling, motivating, mentoring, and also multiplying. Is that not how we make our world better, one person at a time? I'm now going to ask for our timekeeper's report for the morning.
All right. So, this is my second time fulfilling the role as timekeeper, and the first time I did it was an absolute disaster. I forgot to start my timer, I forgot to stop my timer, I forgot to do the lights at the certain breaks, at the certain markers. So I really came here this morning thinking, Tanya, today you're going to do it right. You're going to do right by the role and right by the speaker. But I have messed up again entirely. Renee, yours was 5 to 7, and I was supposed to ting at 30 seconds past 7 minutes. I was watching it go on and on and on and loving your speech so much that I couldn't do the ting. You went for 8:21, and I was sitting there going, Tanya, you're supposed to ting. Tanya, you're supposed to ting. But I just couldn't do it because it was wonderful. So I have let the roll down again. Lynn, you're going to have to put me on this a third time to try and get it right, and I'll add the ting. But I did do all the other components, I think, pretty well. So you also was 8:21, and then Charlotte, you were 7:17. And as I was getting close to that 7:30, I was going, no, please not again. So you were 7:17. Thank you very much for saving me there. Happy? Well, happy enough.
Thank you, Madam Timekeeper. You'll be happy to know that you're not the only one who does that. I think we all do when we're in that role. We just hide it.
Okay, well, I was very open there, transparent.
In front of you do also have slips that look like this. At the bottom of that slip, there are some voting slips. If you could please write your vote for the best speaker of the morning, second best speaker of the morning. Then if you have anything you would like to contribute, this is your chance to be a person of influence and encourage and build. Write something that will help a speaker or myself or not just evaluators, the topic master, the first and the second speaker, with the first speaker being a nay, Charlotte, you're welcome to write a comment on them for them. And to vote at the bottom, Madam Sergeant at Arms will go around and collect the voting slips from you. Once your voting slip has been collected, you are free to go on a break. We are running a little bit early today.
Yes.
We were meant to come back at 10:40, but I think it would be safe for us to come back at 10:25. Madam Sergeant at Arms, are you happy with that? Mr. President, are you happy with that? Okay. So we shall take a break officially now up until 10:25, where we'll have the call to order, and then we'll move into the... Okay. Madam Sergeant at Arms will collect them later, so you don't have to wait for her to come around. We'll see you at 10:25. But while I was thinking about investigating it, I decided, like the thinker that I am, that if I was going to save these people, I needed to read at least one more chapter on how to make friends and influence people. After all, what if this was an armed robbery and I needed to first make friends with the robber in order to disarm them? I did have to think about what if they're drowning and what if it's an emergency that... But I think the chapter won. So I carried on with the chapter and I did learn not much that would help me in the emergency that I was going to come across. I decided to leave the book at the end of the chapter, and I went to my cupboard where I found my very, very old superhero suit that I used to use before I became a superhero in disrepute for killing somebody by mistake instead of saving them. Boss.
Sure. So, since the last time I wore this superhero suit, I used to be such a young, athletic man. And now I've gained a few kilos, so I've decided to put the suit back. So I decided to walk out, and on my way out, I decided to stop a taxi. So I put my finger up, and all of these taxis are walking past, and none of them are giving me a chance. So I decided to hike. And whilst I'm hiking, I'm thinking about this scenario where, what am I going to do in this situation? What are these guys going through? So a friendly person decides to stop by and give me a ride. So
I now realize why the taxis didn't want to give me a lift, because I'm a female and I'm not the overweight male that didn't fit into my superhero suit. So when the friendly person pulls up, I deny getting in the car because I'm a little bit worried about what they're thinking about me, and I continue to walk on, and I'm still thinking about the superpower suits in the cupboard. And I remember somebody telling me I need to draw on an inner hidden genius superpower, and I realize I don't need the suit. I don't need the suit to define who I am and to make me amazing. I've got that all within myself from here down 80%. So I decide to carry on walking and get out of my head.
How fast?
So I get out of my head, I happen to pass a field, and there's a horse there with a saddle and a bridle. So what do? Nice way. I hate walking. Horses are much better. So I get on the horse and off we go, feeling really great. Yeah, it's dark, but horses can see in the dark. You didn't know that, but I can tell you they do. I've been to too many horses not to know. So I carry on along the road, and there's all this traffic. So since I'm on the horse, I move to the other side of the road so that traffic's coming towards me and the horse, and we can see if anybody's going to hit us. That being a big risk on a road at night. And when you're walking anyway, or riding, you should be on that side of the road.
On the horse, I'm consulting my GPS to get to the event that I've been called to. And I realise that it's just over the next rise. My adrenaline's pumping because I realise that I'm about to discover what the problem is. Remember, it's night. There are headlights coming towards me. I can't see terribly well into the distance, but we're galloping across on the sidewalk now. And this isn't very good for the pedestrians. They're having to dodge us. But when one is called for an emergency, one just has to make some sacrifices. So we get to the brow of the hill. And as we reach the brow of the hill, I see what the problem is ahead of me.
Well, while seeing the problem, I also saw that a bunch of people are around next to that field. And I also realized that if, like, I have this genius hidden superpower, this bunch of people also have that. And I also realized that I am not the one only going to solve the problem. It requires a lot of teamwork. And this is also an opportunity for me to leverage what I was reading from the book. that how do we solve the problem as a team rather than me being individual and use my influencing power to bring them together as part of this problem. And suddenly then I went and approached them and I realized that these bunch of faces were really not aware of what am I going to talk to them. So I had to come up with a story and highlight that what exactly this problem is which I am seeing and how their role is going to be so effective to solve that problem and leverage their skill set as well. So then I reached to them and we started discussing the problem and they were well on board with that.
As we started discussing the problem, I realized that a couple of hours later, from trying to catch a taxi, to being on a bike, then a horse, then conversing with a group of people, that the emergency was a group of my friends who had just run out of ice for their gin and tonics. I then started to ponder the afternoon's events on how I allowed my adrenaline rush to take over, and I started solving a problem that I did not actually understand to begin with. It hit me that why did I not a few hours prior just not respond to the SMS and say, what is it that's happening and what do you need? And perhaps wait for a response to better understand what it is that I'm walking into and figure out how to best walk in prepared to actually solve it.
So, in the middle of a field, with a bunch of randoms, a horse, a cell phone, I started to ponder what to do. A thought popped into my head. This could be offensive to some people, but most thoughts normally do, and you kind of brush them off. But with a bunch of people around us, we needed to come up with an idea of celebrating that it was just my friends having gin and tonics, and they actually just wanted me to join the party. So I started to ponder, we needed to have food for this occasion, because gin and tonics, late at night, I'm pretty sure people are getting ravenous. And I kind of looked at the horse.
While I was looking at the horse and contemplating why my friends were drinking so much gin and tonic that they ran out of ice, I thought to myself for a moment, maybe there was a reason why they were drinking so much gin and tonic. I asked a few questions and I realized that they were actually going through a tough time. I sat there and I thought to myself, how do I help my friends in this moment where they are going through a tough time? And I remembered a book called Manifesting Grace Through Gratitude. And I thought to myself, how do I help them visualize that life could be so different? In this book, Oprah talks about taking off in an airplane in the daytime when it's very, very cloudy, and that her most beautiful moment is as they're taking off and she goes through the clouds, looks out the window and sees the beautiful sun. The sun was always there, but when she was on the runway, she just saw the clouds.
Then I saw all the clouds, but then suddenly I realized that I was in my superhuman outfit, and I was there to transform people's lives. After all, in the beginning I'd been reading how to win friends and influence people. So I thought, let me stand up and talk to them about how they can go inward and build on their superpowers to become more of who they need to be. Gin and tonics, now we need to also bring in some Nando's so everyone can have a lovely time. I can stand in my superpower suit and tell them all about their superpowers and how they can move forward in their lives. That's all I've got to say.
I'm so exhausted with the story. I'm wearing my own superpower suit, and I much rather prefer the sun. For every cloud there's a silver lining. My superpower suit goes with me wherever I am. It's inside me, in my heart. I'm going to save them. Whatever it takes, I'm going to save them. I'll feed them, I'll give them something healthier than gin and tonic. Maybe we'll do whiskey or tequila, more pure. Vodka is so pure. And maybe we'll get up and we'll boogie a little bit. But we will focus on the sun. And we will carry on the journey that we are meant to do. And we will save each other. And no longer will they feel so insecure about putting their name on the bottom of the SMS to say who they are. And no longer will they be in fear. They'll actually say, we need us for our gin and tonic. And we'll have a proper conversation. We'll develop a new relationship built in sunshine with our Superman suits on.
After all the sad stories and more gin and tonic, I realized that my friends were actually drunk and I was the only one who was serious about this conversation. So I looked at the horse looked at me, and I decided to hop on back home. And I was going to the horse. I realized that actually there was a problem. One of the friends was stuck under the car. Probably that's where the SMS came from. 1 minute is too long.
Me in full gallop on this horse, my heart beating, fully realizing now the danger that my friend could be in. I yank the horse and he reluctantly neighs or whatever that was. Makes a full 360 or 180 turn, and in full gallop we turn back, we rush back to our friend who was in need. And my heart just keeps beating and realizing that at one moment how could I be so foolish and blind to the fact that there's someone in danger and my friends having this good time, and the two worlds contrasting just made me realize that how important it is I need to be there for my friends and to influence them and to change their lives. And as the horse gallops and we start moving more and more forward, I start to transform because of my thinking and how it's changed. And immediately I take on this new form, and as I come to my friend, I'm able to see her in this dangerous situation. And as she sees me, our eyes connect, and at that moment, the relief and the realization that help is here, and that even though she's called out to her friends several times.
So I look at my friend and she's under this car. I walk towards her and I realize that she just twisted her foot and she was stuck under the car and she could not move. So from that moment I realized that I needed to assist, and I needed more assistance in order to remove her out of the car. So I called one of the more sober friends that could assist, and they were able to come and we tried to remove her out of the car. And finally she was relieved and she said, "Thank you. Nobody could hear me when I was screaming." And at that moment she realized that she had a friend that she could rely on, and that was me. And that feeling of being able to assist someone made me feel.
After assisting this friend and realizing that we are a bunch of friends who have this wisdom that we got from reading these books, I figured we could start a book club. We are all here. There's food, there's Nando's, there's tequila, there's whiskey, and there's gin and tonics. But we actually have resources. We can influence each other by reading these books. So, me being the sober person, I figured I will be the one directing this book club. So we started with how to win friends and influence people. And as we were reading, as I was...
And suddenly after daydreaming for a while, I jogged myself free and realized that the people were drinking the gin and tonics because they were actually so bored of the conversation around the fire at the book club meeting, and they needed some real food, like not like Nando's, like pup and vlees, you know. And so we pulled the young lady from under the car where she sprained her ankle and asked her not to drink anymore. And then we started cooking up a lekker nyama with some pup, and we got some more gin and tonics out, and resolved that in the morning we would get everybody into the car sober this time, and we'd go enjoy them in a much better environment under a tree in the game park.
And what many of you don't know is that I'm actually Wonder Woman, and I believe that this was the workmanship of Zeus, who is evil and wanted to corrupt all these young minds of high alcohol and Nando's. So I put on my scoot and I whipped up this glorious table with plates and cutlery, and I made this hall appear with lights and dancing, and we all had a good evening afterwards.
On a serious note, for most people, it's not what they are that holds them back. It's what they think they're not. I'll repeat that. For most people, it's not what they are that holds them back. It's what they think they're not. And I think for many of us, as the topic went around, and certainly for myself, with every table topic, I always feel I'm not capable. I always feel, what if I can't do this? I always feel more challenged than maybe I should be, because I'm thinking more of what I think I can't do than what I actually am. When we think about the role of an evaluator in Toastmasters, I see a strong parallel between an evaluator and an influencer. An influencer and an evaluator encourage positive self-worth. They create a sense of belonging. They say, you have been part of us and you have been part of this meeting, and we appreciate you having presented your speech, and here's how we would evaluate that speech. Here's how we'll help you move on. Here's what you've done well. An evaluator gives perspective. An influencer gives perspective and tells the truth in love, with love. They enable a feeling of significance, a feeling that I've achieved something today, and they give hope. With that said, I'd like to call upon our evaluation chair, Rick Rodenheimer, to take us through the evaluation session.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The Toastmasters educational program essentially has three legs, much like that tripod. We have prepared speeches where people spend weeks often working out what they are going to say according to the assignment that they are due to present at the time, and then finally the culmination of that is presenting the speech before the club. Then we have the exact opposite of that, where you have no time at all to prepare, or very little, where we do the table topics, the impromptu speaking, which gets us thinking and speaking on our feet. Then the final leg which is the one I'm standing on at the moment, is evaluations, where we give, as the Toastmasters promise says, supportive, helpful evaluations that can help members to grow. We had 2 prepared speeches today, down from 3 that we were intending to have. And our first evaluator will be Dino Lupini to give us his evaluation of an A Nevis speech. Dino Lupini.
Good morning, everybody. I would like just to start off with a backstory of Renee. She is as we learned, an accountant, which as an engineer we've got a lot of jokes between the 2 faculties. But her backstory actually starts very early on when she does have a stutter that you know, have seen. I'll bring this to the best. I'm sorry about that. I need to be controlling my breathing, as you did so well during your speech. And with Anae's stutter, she was given dispensation, which was basically saying that she wasn't going to be allowed to be speaking at school. So essentially, this year, Anae gave her very first speech in the beginning of the year on a book title, and today was actually her second speech ever in front of people. That's right. So just to start that off and give some context to her speech and where she comes from. And the way that with your story as a CC1, an icebreaker, you're supposed to be talking about your life story, and we're supposed to be knowing a lot about you and learn something about you. And the story of your life starting at 36, you start questioning your life and heading into yoga challenges and finding a sense of absolute enjoyment in yoga, then going into this amazing adventure of going into India, experiencing the colors and the festivities, and finding such an amazing sense of I want to say flow. The story was absolutely very descriptive, and by me sitting there and watching your presentation, I was completely captivated by the metaphors that you used, such as festivals of food, which really gave a proper description of what you were experiencing there in India. And then you started leading into other specific descriptions. One that was very, very vivid is when you started speaking about how in yoga you need to be controlling your body. You're not actually supposed to be thinking about the movements that your body needs to be making. You just need to be doing it. And that really touched me because I'm a person that overthinks a lot of things, and I stumble over those thoughts. So by you standing up here, seeing how you present to the people and are able to control yourself is very amazing. So just to wrap up, please can we move away from the notes and a flimsy laptop and crossing your legs on those stilts that you have. So thank you for the beautiful descriptive story, and I can't wait to see you at your next speech. Thanks.
Dino. The evaluation is in itself almost an impromptu speech, because while we discuss it for 5 or 10 or, when we steal some time, 15 minutes during the break, the evaluator then has to prepare a coherent speech giving the right content, so they don't have all the control over it that you would have in a speech of your own, and then put that across to the audience in a fashion that's understandable and logical and truthful. So our evaluators don't have as easy a task as it might appear. Before we go into the second evaluation, I just want to mention, particularly for our guests, something about the Toastmasters educational program. In March last year for this district, Toastmasters launched what is known as Pathways, which is a radical departure from the educational program they had had for many, many years prior to that. And Pathways is very exciting because it opens up a vista of different paths that one can take, rather than having to go through a particular program in one's educational journey. There were 10 pathways launched, and then at the beginning of this month, Toastmasters announced 3 other pathways, one of which they said was creative filling, but that was an April Fool's joke. Each pathway has 5 levels. All of them start with the icebreaker, and the icebreaker is what Anne gave us today. Completing the 5th level and doing that twice for 2 pathways then gives one the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. In doing level 3 at the moment, Charlotte therefore is halfway up the ladder, if you like. Just so that you have an idea of where we are going and where people are. As we see people progress up the levels of their pathways, we can see the development in their given path. Charlotte's, for example, is presentation mastery. So all the different aspects of presentations, of doing PowerPoint, of telling a story, for example, as today, these things get brought in as individual projects. So today was storytelling for Charlotte. So with that background in mind, I'm going to ask Mandy Murray, please to step up to the podium and give us the evaluation of Charlotte Booknote's Level 3 speech. Mandy.
Good morning, everyone, again, especially Charlotte. Your project was to use a story within a speech, and you certainly fulfilled that. You took us through a journey of finding and trusting your hidden genius superpower by using Poe the panda as an influencer. What you did was you cleverly connected us to Poe. You built an image of him in our minds, of this cute, fat, round, insecure person who had a dream, but he had a dream and he believed that dream and he imagined that dream, and that dream was all inside of him, despite the outside of him. You made him relatable to us because we all have outside things that we judge and other people judge, and we allow that, but deep within us we all have a dream and a purpose that we want to fulfill. So it was a fantastic connection, and I think that every time I see maybe a superpower suit or a panda or think of Kung Fu, I'm going to relate that to the story that you told us. I'm going to relate that to Poe, and to know that I do have something within myself
a dream that I can express and I can fulfill, like per the panda. So that was cleverly done, and I commend you on that, even if I am the only person that you influenced by that. Well done. What I enjoyed about your speech was how you used the stage, where you stood here and this was the 20% in the head, and you stood here and this was the 80% of our gut and the inside of who we are and what we have in us. That really separated those two areas. Every time you said something about the gut, you did gesture the side, and about the head, you gestured that side. You had no notes, which is always something we try and encourage from day dot. So well done on that. You had a callback to Anna's speech, very clever, because that wasn't part of your speech, obviously. So you cleverly did that. Well done. And you had a powerful ending that was a take-home for all of us. However, on the things that I encourage you to work on is that your voice is very soft. So that powerful impact at the end could have given us, the words were wonderful, but then you should have demanded from us a little bit more that we could remember that. You need to slow down in your speaking and have some pauses just for effect. You did speak a little fast. And even though you used your stage effectively and your gestures effectively, you also used them quite a bit. So you were waltzing around and doing this, and those were a little bit of a distraction. So on things to work on, I would really work on those things. The other ways that you used your stage and your gestures, those were powerful and impactful. Thank you for sharing your story and influencing my life, and I look forward to your next one.
I'd like to thank our evaluators for taking that risk, that opportunity to step up and give you effectively an impromptu speech and balance it nicely between what people have done well and where they can improve. So, talking about what people have done well and where they can improve, part of my job as general evaluator, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to give an evaluation of the meeting itself. Let me do that. The meeting didn't start quite on time. We were about 5 minutes late with our first call to order. I would encourage people to arrive maybe 10-15 minutes before the stated time of 9 o'clock. Then you can actually get your breakfast before the first call to order, because otherwise things become rushed and you're meeting people and it doesn't work out as well. So I would encourage everyone who's coming to respect yourself, respect the meeting by looking at that time and just allowing a bit more time on a Saturday morning. It's not that early at 9 o'clock. Come at 10 to 9, come at 9:15, and let's actually meet beforehand so that we can start the meeting on time with good decorum. The committee is quite stretched at the moment, what with having lost several members. I would encourage particularly our people who are thinking of joining to also think about taking a role. You can start at the bottom of the list as Sergeant at Arms if you like, and work your way up, secretary, and eventually to a vice president and perhaps president, and you get experience in that way in the leadership side of Toastmasters. We've talked a lot about the educational program this morning. I'm tempted to say tonight because I go to so many evening meetings, but this morning. Whereas Toastmasters has a leadership track as well. And part of that leadership track is taking a role on the committee, taking a role at a meeting, being Toastmaster, being table topics master, giving an evaluation. We refer to Toastmasters as a sandbox. And those who are in the computer industry may be familiar with the term. It's a place where you can mess up without causing a disaster. If you stumble here, if you stutter, if you are so embarrassed that you run off the stage, and I've seen that happen, Even that is not a disaster, because we understand that we're all starting from where we start. And we're trying to become better versions of ourselves, not better versions of somebody else. Right, going back to the meeting. I had for myself a question on the program which I haven't been able to resolve, so perhaps somebody can resolve it for me. And that is, I'm used to icebreakers being 4 to 6 minutes. I don't know if this was extended for certain reasons for NA or for just a mistake. Okay, mistake. So check the timing, because the icebreaker is normally 4 to 6 minutes rather than 5 to 7, which is the standard length of a normal Toastmasters speech going forward until one gets into the very advanced speeches. So that was one point to watch out for. I've mentioned a bit about decorum in terms of people arriving on time. Now, it has been expressed to me that having children in a meeting may be a problem. And I'm not sure if the club has a rule about that. I know to join Toastmasters you must be 18. I'm not sure about children being in a meeting. What we've done in the past occasionally, I know with Christina when she brought her children, was to sit at the back there where a fidgety child would not distract from the rest of the meeting. So I commend that as a piece of decorum that we might consider. Also, when people are speaking, particularly when they're giving a speech, bear in mind that it's a scary thing for them, and we need to be giving them our attention, our support and our love for their speech. So getting up and walking around to take, even if it's because you'd like the place to look cleaner because you don't want the plate sitting in front of you, going and walking around, putting it down is a distraction. So let's not walk around while the meeting is in progress. If you have something urgent, like you have to get to the toilet or something, please try and hold it until it's between speeches. Okay? Then, Toastmasters is a supportive environment. We're here to help each other grow. So I want to encourage more applause. And I know Harold was conscious of time, so during the introductions, he asked us to hold our applause for the end. But I think, and we may differ on this, and Harold's the president, but I would suggest that we applaud every speaker when they've introduced themselves. For some people, this is the first time they've spoken in public. So let's applaud them all, so that our guests get the welcome, and our people who are standing up and taking roles, we know that they're welcome. Let's make a habit of applauding. Some people say it looks like a cult, but tough. So that was decorum, applause. We sometimes have, at some meetings we have a grammarian, a person who talks about good use of language, memorable phrases. They have a word of the day that people are encouraged to use, and then the grammarian calls out, commends the people who've used the word of the day. We didn't have one tonight, this morning. And so I would just like to say I was very impressed with some of the Tombo's quotes, particularly the one like, "Stock your moral warehouse before you need the contents." I'm paraphrasing it slightly. Because under the surface, yes, we're here to become better speakers. We're also here to become better people. And you'll hear many inspiring speeches from this podium. It's good to have a takeaway to remind us of our greater purpose in being here. And I see the red light has been on for some time, so I'm well outstayed. Welcome. I have one more thing to do as part of my role, and that is to ask you to vote for the best evaluator of the day. You have a tiny little slip left on your ballot papers. Please could you vote for the best evaluator. And then the Rhoda Sergeant at Arms will collect the evaluator from you.
That's just your swap. Really good time. Really.
Okay, I'm back.
And I'll stop it.
Fine.
Right. Now that our timekeeper has voted, can I ask you
evaluators.
Give us the times for the evaluators.
Sure.
4 minutes.
So the time for evaluator is suggested to be between 2 and 3 minutes. Dino pushed me into my testing zone again. He went to 4 minutes and I was unable to do the ting. Thank you, Harold, for tinging away on my behalf.
Thanks.
And
Thank you for stopping me.
And Mandy, yours was 3 minutes 20, so thank you for not getting to the 30-second marker and making me face another ting issue. Thank you.
2 to 3 minutes.
2,
What did
3,
we do wrong?
4, 8.
So if I spoke for 3 minutes 20, I was out.
No, you were good. You didn't have to. You didn't make me have to worry about the tinging. Dino tested me on my lack of tinging abilities. So you were 3:20 and you were 4:08.
I was waiting for Lynn to manhandle me on stage. Clearly it didn't happen.
Well, or in Lynn's case, woman.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my role. Thank you for your attention, and I'm handing back control to our Toastmaster of the morning, Tom de Go.
I'm reminded once again by that last comment that things tend to degenerate when they get to this particular section.
It's literally just that.
But not to worry, Dino, because becoming a person of influence is a lifelong journey.
Oh wow. I can't read deep right there. Self-actualizing.
We learn as we go along. However, the first step is to make a decision to be the kind of person that deliberately adds value to others. I'd like to leave you with a few pointers for today. But my encouragement is not to be overwhelmed by anything you've heard today, or to compare yourself to what a person of influence is meant to be. My encouragement is for you to just choose one starting point from what I'm about to say to you now. First pointer is to choose to believe in others, because most people don't have someone who believes in them. If I take it back again to Poe's example with Charlotte graced us with, which is such a rich example. He needed Sifu to believe in him. There was someone that had to believe in him, and sometimes people have to borrow your belief in order to meet their own potential. Second pointer would be to choose to listen actively and wholeheartedly. The difference between listening and hearing, a student once said, is listening is actually wanting to hear. The third pointer would be to seek to understand rather than to be understood, because nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. The fourth pointer that I will give you today is to let others leave your presence feeling bigger and feeling better than they were when they entered it. What will they take out of your presence? The second last pointer from me this morning is to give people around you permission to succeed. Sometimes people like me, who are very melancholy, strict personalities, find it difficult to say, well done to people. And we tend to pick on the things that a person might not have done well, expecting them to be perfect, because we put the weight of perfectionism on ourselves. So, as I speak to you, remember I said that these were also my learnings. My encouragement to you and to myself is to give the people around you permission to succeed, even in their imperfections. Then lastly, for you to be the person that adds value, even when the going gets tough. we're a little ahead of time, so I'd like to leave you with a short story from the book that was highly impactful to me. And it's a story of a day when John Maxwell was taking a flight back home from one of his seminars that he was holding. And as usual, he screeched in at the last minute, thinking that he was going to be the last person to go through the boarding gate. But as he got to the boarding gate, he found there was a whole bunch of people that were supposed to have already boarded the plane that were actually sitting there looking frustrated. They've been sitting there for a while. They're supposed to have boarded. There's no one who's helping them board. And there's murmuring. We've seen that murmuring in the waiting room when people are going, I wonder what's going on. There hasn't been an announcement. And then when he went up to ask one of the ladies that was manning the flight station, she said, oh, the plane's been delayed, the flight's been delayed, so everybody's sitting and waiting, and you're going to have to sit and wait. 30 minutes later, people were still sitting and they were starting to feel a little bit frustrated. John Maxwell made a decision. He stood up. He went downstairs to another portion of the airport, went up to the counter where they were selling beverages and food, and he said to the lady at the counter, I'd like 60 Coca-Colas, please. And she said, sorry, you'd like what? And he said, I'd like 60 Coca-Colas, please. And she said, if you don't mind me asking, do you really want 60 and what do you want them for? And he said, well, my flight's been delayed. Everybody is sitting around getting frustrated. I thought I might as well give them refreshments. I feel like one. I'm going to get one for everyone. She said, so would you mind if I shared that cost with you? Because I think that's a thoughtful thing to do. So the two of them went back upstairs and took 60 Coca-Colas and started handing them out. Obviously, as can be expected, many people were feeling a little bit skeptical and a little bit tentative about accepting the Coke. But after a while, they could see they weren't going anywhere anyway, anytime soon, so they started to accept drinks. And John walked around chatting to people, finding out where are you from, where are you going, let's make the best of this time that we have while we are waiting. Pretty soon, he made friends with some of the people that worked for that specific flight carrier. And he managed to convince them to let them go onto the flight while they were waiting for their attendants. And they did go on. And as they were getting onto the flight, he noticed that they have, in that serving area and that you walk past, that they had nuts and crisps. And so he went in and he took some and he started serving everybody in their seats. And by the time the flight attendants came on, flustered and going, let's at least serve people something. But there was a whole party going on in the back. And one of them said, what is going on in here? Only to find people were eating and drinking. There was nothing left to serve. And John said, don't worry. You carry on with your job. I've sorted the people out. Do you mind if I say something to them on the intercom? And they said, well, since you're way into it, go ahead. And he said, hello, this is John, your friend. And I'm happy to have you on this flight. I know we've been delayed, but I think this is going to be a wonderful flight. I'm going to ask that you enjoy the rest of this flight, and I'll speak to you later if it's okay with the attendants. Of course, they didn't have a choice. But the flight went well. Nobody shouted at the attendants. Nobody made complaints about the airplane being delayed, because somebody took a step and wasn't thinking about themselves and how they had been inconvenienced and thought, since we've all been inconvenienced, what small step can I take to help everybody else who's with me? I could go get a refreshment for myself and I would sit and feel better for a few minutes. Or I could get 60 refreshments for the entire plane and we could all have a better experience. So I leave you with that thought today to say, to be a person of influence, ask yourself in every situation each day, how can I give of myself today to make their experience better? Thank you for your attention this morning. I'd like to hand over back to our President, Harold Robinson.
Tambu, thank you very much. I think you have influenced us all, influenced our thinking today with your theme and with the way that you did the Toastmastering. I think you did very well today, so another round of applause for us. Good. We have got 2 orders of business left. The first is on a point, and this is your opportunity if anybody wants to announce anything or say anything about the meeting or complain about the president or whatever you want to do. This is your time. Dino.
I would just like to say thank you, Tambu. The reason why I did come to this meeting was because of that the theme titling Becoming a Person of Influence. I wanted to see how you were going to pitch it to us. And to be honest, what you did here today was remarkable. You are a person that has, let's just say, influence, yes.
Natural.
You have natural influence, and to be honest, you have a way of presenting things that are so calming, relaxing, and you get that message through. So thanks for today, I really enjoyed it.
I just want to point out, Rena has checked with the club about bringing her daughter, and it hasn't actually been a problem until now. Okay, just to clear the record. No more on the points. Yes, Rick.
Would you like to announce the area contest?
No, would you?
All right, it's not officially my area, but I'm happy to announce it, seeing my club's in it. And that is, the area contest will be on the 30th of April at 4th Dimension, which is at Dimension Data, in the, help me to this, which building?
The Wanderers.
Wanderers building, I think.
Yes.
I don't have a time for you, but if you bank on 6 o'clock in the evening, you're probably safe.
Right.
And obviously, we would love to see lots of people from Bryanston Breakfast Club there to support your contestants.
Yes, our contestants are Mandy and Tom.
Sorry, the date again was the
30th of April.
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
6 o'clock for safety. It depends safety from what you're talking about.
20th. Oh, yes, it's Tuesday, sorry.
Yeah, Tuesday.
I would advise to get there around about 5:30.
You guys are punctual, right?
Parking is not that simple to find.
Yeah, it
Those
is.
buildings
And
are not
the
well
traffic.
marked.
Yeah.
The traffic.
You get wonderfully lost.
Yeah. Cool.
You also have to park in the area that's marked differently too. Last thing left for me to do is the awards. So let's start with the best evaluator. Best evaluator for the day. Drum roll. to somebody that played a particularly good role or did something special during the meeting, solely at my discretion. Nobody can argue about it. It gives me a great sense of power. I'm very pleased to give it to Tangu today. Speaker of the day. Goodness me. Need a drum roll, please. It's a tie. Both speakers, please come up.
Congratulations. Shaking hands.
Look at that grin, eh? Why are you smiling like that?
Well done.
And in recognition of getting up the first time in Toastmasters to speak, we have a special little ribbon for our icebreaker speech tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the meeting. We look forward to seeing you here for the next one, the 100th. Hope you enjoyed today. I certainly did. And I hereby call the meeting to a close.
Well done.